Nope. All right, guys.
Okay.
Good day, and welcome to another episode of the FathersFyre Man-to-Man edition. And as you may have heard, Shawnee asked the question, is Mike joining us? Well, it doesn't look like he's going to join us. He texted me late in the afternoon and said, the Queen needs some help, so probably will not be there. So I chided him a little bit, which men do, and but no, he's where he should be, taking care of the wife and helping her. So, man, I'm super excited. It's a brand new year. It's also Antoine's birthday yesterday, so we got to wish him a happy birthday. So, got to give him a little bit of love because he looks like forever 29, and it's just amazing. It's just incredible how good he looks, man. So
Don't make me
How
cry,
old is
man.
he?
he's not gonna tell you. I told you he's 29.
You're gonna make me cry, man. I don't want my Botox to fall though.
Here's the deal, though. You make Shaq, you make him look like, the guy from what's a Tweedledee Tweedle? Not that guy, the Pee Wee Herman. You're so cool. You make everybody else that's supposed, that normally is rated as cool. They look like they're second class citizens. So, happy birthday to you, man. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you
yeah.
guys.
So those of you guys joining us, let me introduce you to my compadres in tonight's discussion. We have Antoine Browne. He is a man of faith. Every week he does inspirational messages on Facebook. He's actually been asked to be one of the featured speakers at the Men with the Mantle Holy Convocation Conference in 2022 in March. So that's going to be awesome. And Shawnee the Kid, he's a roofer with a passion and a drive and a love to help families build strong connections, especially with husbands and wife. And he has exploded on TikTok. I think he's like nearing the 100,000 mark now. And, he's up there just having an impact, just sharing his raw feelings as people reach out to him. So which brings me to my topic tonight. And by the way, my name's Jody Sedrick. I'm the host of FathersFyre, and I'm always exploring the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And any week, any day, any moment, you can have all of those. It's kind of like the Idaho spring. Just wait 15 minutes and the weather will change. And that can happen in a family real quick, especially knowing some of you men. So, but this is what I've been thinking about, guys. A gentleman reached out to me TikTok a couple weeks ago. And he and I've had a number of discussions. And what's been interesting is I've gotten to know him. His name is Dave. He's lives in the Oklahoma area, and he got on TikTok, and he shared his heartbroken feelings of the loss of his daughter, who died less than a year ago. And it's interesting because as I have watched the interaction between people on TikTok and people making comments and his response, it's interesting because while there has been a lot of support for him and a lot of love being expressed for his sorrow and his loss, there have been a number of comments by the men that that have been the traditional man card. Why don't you just buckle up and quit sharing your emotions, quit being a woman? And I'm just like, are you kidding me? This guy lost his daughter and he can't even express the emotion and the loss in his life that came with, I can't even imagine. Well, I've come close to that situation before, having dealt with teen suicide. but to actually lose a child, man, I just can't even imagine. And it's really made me look at, how am I able to open my heart? Do I have a safe space to do so? And how many men don't have that space? And I'm actually reading the book Battle Cry by Jason Wilson, Waging and Winning the War Within. And I think a lot of us men, we're walking alone, even though we try. So I wanted to talk to you guys about, where does emotion and feeling come into a man's life, especially when he's trying to open his heart to his wife and to his kids.
You go ahead, birthday boy. I see the gears turning.
Wow. It's, I don't know, man. You just listening to you talk about the gentleman who lost his daughter, and then the response that he's getting back, the mixed response that he's getting back. It's always interesting to me when I think let me say this. I think one of the biggest problems that I see right now, I think even in this country, is the lack of empathy that we have for each other. And I mean, I just want to say this. I'm going to make this statement. I'm not suggesting that this is my view, but I heard people say on the news that they have issues with our president because they feel like he's out of touch. And some of the things that I've heard them say is that he doesn't have to go to the gas pump. He doesn't have to go to the grocery store and buy meat to feed a family of 5 or 6 or so. He doesn't feel that particular pinch. And so and really what they're talking about is empathy. There are a lot of things that I'm not going to feel that Jody feels or that Shawnee feels. There's a lot of things I'm not going to be able to physically feel. But what empathy does is it at least causes you to attempt to put yourself in the shoes of that person and say, let me see if I can see this thing through their eyes. Let me see if I can feel this through their skin. Let me see if I can kind of merge my heart with their heart. And I believe that there's room to do that. I believe that God allows us to do that, to put ourselves in that position. I remember reading in the Bible when it talked about when Jesus went to see Lazarus, and with the shortest verse, I think the shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. Well, of course, at some point, Jesus said, "Okay, now I got work to do. I got a job to do. I got to get him out of there. Lazarus, come on out. It's enough of this." But there was a moment where Jesus actually empathized with Mary, and he cried. I mean, he wept, but he cried. He actually felt the pain that they were feeling over the loss of their brother. And so I think that that's one of the things that I don't see. And we can kind of water that down and say, well, that's being soft. You're being soft if and I'm not saying that if my brother is hurt, he's crying, that we got to go over there and cry too. I'm not saying we got to sit up there and just sob with each other, but what I am saying is that I got to be sensitive enough to be in a position to where I can provide some comfort at least. And the only way that I'm able to do that is if I can at least try to feel what he's feeling. I mean, even if I gotta, for a moment, just sit there. If it's a situation like him, he lost his daughter. I have a daughter or a son, or man, how would I feel if this was my child? How would I feel if I could no longer see my child? How would I feel if I could no longer hear my child's voice? How would I feel if I wouldn't be able to see my daughter? I wouldn't be able to walk my daughter down the aisle when I'm giving her away to her husband. How would that make me feel? And again, it's not me saying that I think we need to put ourselves in a position to make us feel sad and depressed, you know. But for the sake of our brother, for the sake of our sister, you know, part of the reason that I think people cannot get as strong as they need to be moving forward is because there's nobody there to comfort them and hold them up. You know, there's not enough people. The people that they really care the most about are looking at them like, man, you got to snap out of this. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting because my family, we have a really close friend, and her daughter recently had a child that has some severe health challenges. Was born with spina bifida, has some other things that he's wrestling with. Has been in ICU for almost 2 weeks now.
Mm.
And it's interesting because, I see everybody rally around the mom. They rally around, my wife and and my wife's best friend, Kathy. And as, I'm watching all of this support and love be poured out to the mother of the child. I sat back and I go, who's reaching out to the dad?
Yeah.
And I reached out to the dad and I sent him a text and I just said, hey, you know what? I know everybody's pouring into your wife, but I want you to know that I'm here to pour into you. And he and I had a beautiful text thread going back and forth for about 30 minutes, of him just talking about his, the condition of his kid, how he's struggling, how he thought he was doing better. And then he just kind of started sharing how he was feeling helpless and, that he was just praying that God would step in. And I think that rarely do we as men receive, that kind of love and outpouring as our family is going through a severe challenge, especially with our children. And that's not to say that there isn't a place for that. And that's my point. I think a lot of times, we get so focused on making sure that the wife's taken care of that sometimes we forget that dad's carrying a heavy burden in his heart and he's trying to be stoic. He's trying to be, shoulder the burden. But man, when he goes off into his car, he might be just breaking down in tears from the weight.
Yeah.
And I, it just made me really think about, as I'm looking at, Dave on one hand, I'm looking at Phil on the other hand, how many people poured into either one of them and what kind of difference if we actually did that for each other, what that would do for our mental health and our mental strength for our families.
Amen, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I this episode reminds me of when we had the man card episode, because what we're talking about here is like talking about the people that are talking negatively to the gentleman Dave on TikTok. What it is, man, people can't separate entertainment from real life. I don't think some people, or they're just immature at this point, and maybe someday they'll get it together after they have their own kids. I don't know. But I really want to read something because when Anton was talking, I was like, amen. And I wanted to read this to you guys here. This is in Romans chapter 12. Check this out real quick. This is so right on here. And this is going to be awesome. So it says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. And that little passage there, I think, speaks volumes because, as men growing up, we kind of think being a man is like being forceful or being like kind of cocky or standing up to whoever about whatever, whenever you want to. But you kind of learn after a while that that doesn't really get you too far. And I think that people that, you know, are doing it, unfortunately, I see, and maybe it's just because I see a lot of people, but I see more and more people acting up in a bad way like that. Like I was at Home Depot the other day and there was kind of a long line. The poor girl at the register was like going as fast as she possibly could. And this dude's in the back just yelling and swearing and whatever, get another person on a register. And this girl's just like, you know, it puts the pressure on her. And I'm just like thinking, man, that ain't cool. And I wanted to just be like, shut up, like, you know, but I'm just like, give the chick a break. Jeez. But you know, I'm just like, then I'm as bad as him, you know, but I'm just saying, I was talking to her, she was fine, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I think people get the wrong idea. I sort of like, I love movies. Don't get me wrong. I got my Cobra Kai shirt on. I love TV and stuff, but I think some people, yep. So I think some people can't separate reality from entertainment. Like they see somebody acting like that on the movie and they think that that's how you're supposed to act if you want to be like somebody or something like that. And it's kind of the opposite, you know what I mean? And being kind, I think I've learned, I think if I wouldn't have done karate, if I wouldn't have had that kind of confidence, I might not be as nice of a guy that I am, because I don't have to be like forceful to somebody to feel cool, because I feel confident in my own. I feel confident being kind to somebody, and that's you know, as a Christian, it just kind of happens to be like that way, you know. But I think some people just, they don't have that inner strength to be like, oh, bro, you okay? They can't be vulnerable with somebody because they think they're like a coward or something, you know?
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking about another TikTok that I saw yesterday, and there was a gentleman. I mean, he's literally in his car and he's crying. And in his text, he said, you know, if my wife only knew what I was going through every day as I face the challenges of our family. And I made the comment to him, I was like, don't you think that your wife would want to be included in that struggle with you, to walk with you, to strengthen you, to hear the concerns of your heart? No, she doesn't want a crybaby, bawling baby boohoo dude that's weak. And, you know, she wants to have confidence that you're going to man up and take responsibility. But at the same time, how many women express a desire for men to open their hearts? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean you have to be a big old sap, but it can be. It can be, sweetheart, man, I'm really struggling. I'm frustrated. I'm hurt. You know.
I was going to say, you know, totally agree on that. But at the same time, you know, I just know this from my own marriage. Like my wife, I feel like there was a long time where I didn't open up to my wife and I tried to hold all my emotions in and not do anything, because we had gotten into this sort of general attitude around the house of just me being pushy and her reacting to me. And it was wrong. But I'm just saying that I always thought in my mind, like if I lighten up, she's going to get harder. That's what I used to think. Like I used to think if I try to be nice, then she's going to be more mean to me or something. And so it's like a subconscious sort of fear or something. And so what would happen is if what's up? I better shut up.
He's in the light. He's been exposed.
That was perfect timing, man.
Yeah, it was. What did you say? You really opened your heart? Floop.
Yeah.
The light goes on.
Anyway, go ahead. I've lost my train of thought there.
Nothing like the wife walking in on you when you're trying to share your emotions or your thought.
Right.
You'd probably get a kick out of what she had to say about that, because I was wrong about that when I started to cooperate, I guess you could say, with certain things that I kept saying no about, things got a lot better. And that's my whole message on TikTok, is that if you just, dudes have it hard, guys have it hard, that's for sure. But we got to realize, like, our wives taking care of our kids and stuff, they just need a break every once in a while. And when I started to take the load off my wife a little bit, my whole house, the whole environment at the house was different. Yes. But anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said too, and Sean, you read in Romans chapter 12. That's one of my favorite chapters in the Bible. From the very beginning of the chapter. But verse 9, it says, let love be without dissimulation. And I'm a word guy, so I like to look up what words mean and break them apart. But that word dissimulation means undisguised. So let love be undisguised. So in other words, let love not carry a mask or wear a mask. And I think that that's what happens a lot of times, is that we judge people. Husbands sometimes judge their wife because, they don't really care. They don't really care about what's going on with me. But they can't tell what's going on behind that mask. One of the things about wives, and probably women in general, is that they will show you by facial expression what is going on with them. They don't have to say anything. They take that mask off and you can see it. Oh, honey, what's wrong? Are you okay? What did I do? Can I fix it? But we'll walk around and we wear this mask. We're this really is a disguise, because we're trying to hide what we're really feeling. And the problem is, a lot of times what happens is, we'll keep going day in, day out. How you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm fine. Is everything okay? Yeah, I'm good. No, anything wrong? No, nothing wrong at all. I'm good. And then, and because we're waiting for them to say specifically what it is, hey, honey, I noticed that you were upset because of XYZ. They're not mind readers. They have no idea what's going on in the head of yours. And I know men, a lot of times husbands, say the same thing about wives. They expect us to read their mind, and it's a little different. It's a little different because, like I said, they put more signals out there than we do. And so they're putting signals out there like, come on, you got to catch that one. You got to be blind to not see that one. Come on. Stevie Wonder saw that one. You know what I mean? But we're not giving them anything. We got a mask on. We're like that, like the scripture says in Romans 12:9, we're disguised. We're hiding what we're really feeling, and we're not telling them either. It's one thing to have the mask on, but it's another thing to say, hey, can we talk for a second? But what happens is we bottle that stuff up. We go in, day out, and until we either implode or explode. Imploding, and both of them are bad. Imploding, a lot of times, it has to do with your health. Something happens in here. You got heartburn. You got, acid reflux flaring up. You got some other kind of issues going on. But exploding is now I'm lashing out. Mm-hmm. I'm saying something that I really wish I could take back. And so it's important for us to verbalize. So emotion is not bad. Emotion doesn't make you, turn you into a woman. It's not a gender changing thing that happens when you begin to tap into your emotions. It really is a testament of how strong you are. Yes. If you can do it.
Agreed.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I am man enough. I am man enough to sit down with my wife and say, honey, remember yesterday when you said XYZ, I just got to be honest with you. It rubbed me the wrong way. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but it did hurt. And I just gotta tell you. So I apologize because I was reacting a certain way. You had no idea, because I had the mask on, I had the poker face, making you think that everything was fine. And so I apologize for that. It takes a man to do that.
Yeah.
It takes a real man to be able to do that.
Well, I think one of the things too is we tend to, in our language, we tend to masculinize or feminize emotions when emotions are universal to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is when, especially when you're younger, when a young lady gets hurt or she's embarrassed, people run to her attention. They let her explore it. They commiserate with her. They, listen to her. They give her love. They put their arms around her.
Mm-hmm.
A boy does that.
Yeah.
Same exact situation. What's the response? Oh, man up. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so we, from the very beginning of being raised, haven't been taught how to deal with productively our emotions, both to not only deal with them, but also to express them in a way that is healthy for ourselves and for everybody around us, so that they know where we're coming from. And if we can create an environment, especially as we're raising our kids, where our boys and our girls feel safe with how they feel, it's so much healthier for them. And I got to give it, I mean, straight up, I think one of the challenges we men have, and my wife is extremely good at just letting the kids talk. I mean, it's like last night we were watching a show, and then I'm like, all right, it's time to go, right? And about that time, since she comes in and she's had a fun time out with the girls and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we were just going to bed, and and I'm like, all right, I go over and give her a peck and on the cheek and give her a hug. I love you. I'm going to bed, and my wife's up for another 90 minutes, right? And I mean, and that's kind of a bad reflection on me, because, I'm trying to build an environment where I want to be able to talk to my kids, but sometimes it's easier because my wife's better at it than I am to just go, sweetheart, you do that.
Yeah.
And that's just real.
Right. Yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. So tell me if you think this is true. And because I'll be honest, like, I'm not like really hard on my son. I have a good relationship with him. We talk about things and we have the ability to talk about things. But sometimes when he's like upset about some minuscule thing, you're kind of right. If it's something happened to my daughter, it'd be like, oh, but for him, I'm like, dude, just suck it up, man, because you're going to have people messing with you at school or something. And I kind of feel like I'm like a little hard on him like that. But this is the thing. And I want to know if you guys, is it like this for like a lot of people, or is it just because I'm a construction worker? Like when we go to work and it's a bunch of dudes, the environment is toxic, to say the least, and, I feel like a lot of guys maybe go to toxic environments at work. And then when they come home, they don't know how to like turn off the attitude or whatever, and they kind of treat their wife like that a little bit. I've done it and I'm not proud of it, but I'm just saying, like, to be honest, it's like, it's hard to, it takes a little time to realize, like, hold on a sec. I'm, you know what I mean? I gotta, the older I get, I'm more just me wherever I go. But it used to be like at work, everybody has an attitude, and then you come home and it's like, it's kind of hard to turn that off, I guess. And I kind of noticed that, like, I feel like a lot of guys maybe shut down when they get home. They just totally just shut down the engines. They shut down their emotions. They just, because they come home and with their wife, they're just, it's conflicting emotions going around. And I've done it. Like, I'll come home and just totally just shut down because I kind of have no clue, or I used to have no clue how to like just be with my wife at home, coming from like a bunch of craziness at work all the time, And I don't know if that's normal. I don't know. Is that?
Well,
I don't know.
I think it is, you know, and I mean, I don't think it's just because you work in construction. I think it's I think it's like that with a lot of men. You know, and I think it just goes to that perception that men have to be a certain kind of way to be a man. In order to be a man, you know, I agree with you. It reminds me of that man card conversation. In order to hold on to my man card, there's a certain way I got to be. I got to be tough. I got to be strong. I have to be nonverbal. You know, I have to grunt. You know, that my response is a grunt. You know, hey, you hungry? You know, you know, you know, hey, you know, son, hey, your son walks to me, hey, dad. You know, I mean, it's just that perception. I mean, that's obviously that's exaggeration and that's extreme, but I think there is that perception that men have to respond a certain kind of way. I got to show my son that I'm tough. I got to show him how to be tough, and the biggest thing that I've learned, well, I shouldn't say the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that I've learned in this or from this pandemic is that mental health is just as important as physical health.
Yes.
And Jody, you said something. You gave an analogy of a girl who's hurt and how the girls rally around her to comfort her. They're crying with her, but at the same time they're, hey, what can we do to make it better? And sometimes they're giving advice. If it's a guy that hurt him, oh, you need to leave him. He ain't no good anyway. I told you he ain't no good. So they're giving her something to make her feel better. And to not, what they're trying to do is reverse. They're trying to save her mental health. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get her to turn away from self destruction. This is my fault. I did this. I caused this. No, it ain't you. He wasn't no good. I told you he wasn't no good. So they're trying to pull her out of that and strengthen her, build her up, lift her up. We do see that from men, but more from the physical standpoint. Having played sports all my life, I remember going, playing basketball. I'm driving the ball to the basket, and I jump up, and when I land, I felt my leg buckle, and what I did was I hyperextended my knee. It went backwards, and so I went down. I'm grabbing my knee. I'm clutching my knee. Next thing I know, and I think I closed my eyes because I was just like in so much pain. When I opened my eyes, almost my whole team was gathered around me.
Mm-hmm.
You okay, man? You okay? And then that moment where they pick you up because you can't walk, and you put your arm around their shoulder and they're walking with you, you limping, to the sideline. That's really the same thing as those girls gathering around that girl, but that's a mental health thing that they're doing by helping to pull that girl out of that depression, out of that thing that she may slip into because of how hurt she is. Well, they're doing the same thing with me. Man, you're going to be all right, man. You're going to be all right. Look, we're going to get out there. We're going to win this game for you. If a guy goes down in football and he can't play for the rest of the season, they get a patch, with that guy's number on there to make sure everybody understands. They rally for physical stuff, but for the mental health aspect, that's the thing that guys feel like is weak.
Yeah.
If you got mental health issues, you're weak. Something's wrong with you. I don't know, man. I'm as we're talking, I'm just thinking about a lot of stuff. You got these guys in football who have these head injuries, this head trauma, and I wonder if the root cause is they're trying to cry out to tell people that something is wrong with my mind, and we can't hear them because you're a football player. You can't have mental problems. You can't be crying. You can't be sobbing. You're a football player. So they can't handle it. It gets to the point where their minds are so, in such disarray that they resort to suicide. I mean, can you imagine a football player who's making millions of dollars commits suicide but before he commits suicide, leaves a note and says, please check out my brain because something is not right. You know, that's mental health. That's mental health. And unfortunately, these guys get to that level, to that they get driven to that point because they feel like they don't have a platform to express themselves, because if they do, they're considered weak and soft. And it's just so sad.
Yeah. There's a couple of thoughts that I had from both of you guys' comments. Is, first of all, the Shawnee's original question, do you treat your sons differently? I think naturally we tend to do that, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did was, and it was extremely helpful for our family, was Judy and I, especially as we adopted the kids, we said, look, we need to recognize that the children that we're bringing into our home, they have some emotional baggage. And as they bring that in, it is going to ripple across all of our children. And we started to see that it affected all of our children. And so we started once a month. Judy would take one of the kids and I would take one of the kids, and we would go out for a daddy son date, daddy daughter date, and we would just have some one-on-one time. And I cannot tell you how touching and heartfelt and how powerful those one-on-one dinners over Panda Express, or grabbing a subway and going to the park and just visiting for an hour, 2 hours, and then going to the movies together, how that fortified our relationship. But I think it gave the kids the foundation to go, you know what, I can talk to dad and I can talk to mom about the things that are on our heart. And so while we need to teach our boys to be a man and supportive and all that traditional stuff, we also need to teach them that they have a safe place to open their heart.
Yeah.
And that safe place should and can include dad, if we as dads will make space for that.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I'm just thinking about your example of, sports, and, Shawnee is a martial arts genius. I think a lot of times, we rally around in those environments, but when we get outside of those environments, we don't necessarily have the same support structure. And I tell you, it has been such a blessing to me, especially as we wrestled with teen suicide and the challenge with my son, to have a couple men that would check in on me and say, hey, Jody, how you doing? I just feel like you might need to talk, and be able to either on the phone or get in our car and go for a drive, or go out to the Draper's Pit and shoot guns for an hour and just blow off steam and blow up stuff. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to say something. You just need to be there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, when we say we need to mourn with those that mourn, sometimes that is just being a friend. It's being a shoulder. It's being a strength, somebody to sit next to, even when nothing is said.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing what the spirits can communicate side by side.
Yeah. I love that, man. And it's about security too. I was looking at some of the comments, and my friend Duran is on there. He said sometimes men just need to hug other men, and I'm looking at that because it's funny too, because growing up, if a man hugged a man without giving a handshake first, the half handshake, we gotta do that first, and then I gotta burp you, you know what I mean? Come on, burp, It's got to be that way. It's not just, hey man, come here, man, come here, brother, or hey man, I love you, man. That's not something that I grew up on. I didn't see that a lot from men. It was always, you always, wondered about their, orientation. If you hug without the handshake, hey, he hugged him and didn't shake his hand first. What's going on there? And did he say he loves him? you don't do that, And so I'm glad, man. I'm so glad that I'm secure in who I am, in my identity, that I can say, Jody, I love you, brother. Shawnee, I love you, man. And it is genuine. I love you guys. And at the same time, I don't love you nowhere near as much as I love my wife.
Yeah.
It's not the same at all by anybody's stretch of anybody's imagination. But it's and the Bible talks about it as the different type of love. There's eros love. That's that love that, there's agape and then there's eros love. That agape love is unconditional. So I love my wife with that agape love, but also with the eros love. Eros love is that love that you have between your spouse, you and your spouse. But then there's phileo, and that's brotherly love, where the whole Philadelphia, the city of, brotherly love. Phileos love is that love that I have between my brothers. It's that I got your back. If you need my help, I'm there. Just don't ask me to help you move. But anything else, don't ask for a ride to the airport. But anything else though, I got you. I got you. It's like, hey man, I'm running late. Can you pick my son up and take him to practice for me? I got you. I got you. That's love. That's love. Things like that. Or I had surgery. I'm sick. Hey man, let me bring you some food. Let me bring you something to eat. That's love, and that's an expression of love. And so, and then to be able to say it, hey man, got you something to eat. Hey brother, I love you, man. And that there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, again, and I'm going to reiterate that is a trait of a real man to be able to do that, and then go home to his wife and know what he is when he gets home. And so I think that some people think that there's a thin line, but I don't think so. I don't think there's a thin line between that. I think that that's the perception that people have, is that if I do that, I might slip over into that. No, if you know who you are, and you got to know who you are, and you got to be secure about who you are, because that right there will release a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, when I got I remember I can kind of remember around the time where I had a guy actually say, "Hey man, I love you, man," and I was like, "What?" you know. And it's like, "Come here, man, give me a hug," and it was weird because I can't tell you I can remember the person, but I can remember a moment like that. And the guy that did it, there was no question in my mind about who he was. I didn't suspect anything. It's like, wow. I remember thinking the fact that he can do that is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And he was so much more free than I was. He wasn't in bondage, in these chains and shackles that a lot of men are just. I mean, we just shackled and bound down to this persona that I gotta be this or I'm not a man. He was just free to be a man, a real man, who was really in touch with who he was, who God created him to be. The Bible says, love your neighbor as you do yourself. And I'm like, it's just this persona, man. Like I said, I just saw these shackles that were on my wrist as he was hugging me, and I'm like, I want to be free.
I want that.
Reminded me of the movie like Amistad. Give us free.
And that's an interesting image, right? Because on one hand, you're saying, let me be free to receive this love.
Yeah.
But also let me be free to give this kind of love that I haven't learned how to do yet.
Right.
That's awesome.
And I think that's the ultimate test for us men, is to learn how to tap into true emotion, to tap into true love in a way that lifts and carries and inspires other people because of the way that we love them.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you have a man in your life that just touched your heart? And if you look at it, why did he touch your heart? Because it's the way he made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
He made you feel at home. He made you feel comfortable. He made you feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, he made you feel loved. And that made all the difference in your life. He may have been the man that totally changed your trajectory in life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing what one man with one willing heart can do to affect generations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say something about what Antoine was saying, because, dude, yes, you're awesome, by the way, man. That's just like, I want to tell you guys a story real quick. You had mentioned earlier, like, I was a martial arts teacher. I started teaching karate when I was 20, and I was assistant instructor, help, do stuff, teach stuff. And when I got, probably like 4 years into it or something, you start to pick up, a lot of people just want to do this because they want to like be tough and one up people and kind of like push people around. And I've become accustomed. I mean, I've signed up thousands of people probably, and you become accustomed to those people right away. You can pick it up, the way they talk, their mannerisms, if they're going to be the kind of person that they're just there to be tough, And when they figure out that it's a lot more than just talk, you actually have to like do work, and then there's actual, like, you actually have to care about certain things and care about your training and have consistency and things like that. The becoming that martial arts person, it is a lot more than people think. And I just think it's interesting because I went through that process, Antoine, and I'm still going through that process. And I just want to say that it's so true what you're saying. And I've seen people go through that process in my school from training with me. And the one thing you were saying about is just like having just like a friend. Sometimes some of these kids, like, dude, I've mentored tons of teenagers. A lot of them young boys who their parents have issues, dad's in jail, dad's not in his life at all, things like that. And a lot of these kids, like, they don't know it right away, but they really just need someone to sit and listen to them and care about them and care about who they are, and not just like, put them on the back burner. And I think that, if you really, for a lot of people that want to do ministry or do, just, be that person in somebody's life, you really have to get in touch with everything that Jody's saying, like getting in touch with your emotions, being willing to sit and listen to people complain or whine or whatever it is, and get inside their head. And I've had to do that as a mentor for a long time. But, I feel like, it's really, I love this show because it's really interesting. When we had the other, the man card show, and we're talking about being a man is not what people think it is. And tonight we're talking about this process of people going from a sort of a diluted mindset. Like Anton was saying, like, he felt shackled. I think a lot of people feel that, but they just don't want to admit it, or they don't know the process of getting out of it, and they don't really know the process of, or maybe they just don't have a real friend that's willing to say, hey, this is the right way, bro. You know what I mean? And that is so powerful, man. And I think that if you could get that out into the general public more, and there was more men to stand up for this kind of thing, man, the sky would be the limit, bro. And but the problem is, what stinks about it is people just they get so like stressed out. I think a lot of people walk around with a lot of men walk around with depression, and they may not even know they're depressed, and they're just in this like, you know, they go through life with blinders on. They don't want to hear anything. They don't want to try any harder because they already tried hard enough, and they get stuck. They're shackled, like you said, and they're just going through life like that. And it's yeah. How do you wake them up?
Yeah, you know, and this, one of the sad things about it is one of the reasons that men are afraid, and really what it comes down to is they're afraid to be vulnerable, is because they're afraid that they're going to be taken advantage of. You know, it's amazing too because you got on the Cobra Kai shirt, sweatshirt, and so I
bought this for my wife, but go ahead.
I love it, man. I love it. You know, because I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. And so the original one, Ralph Macchio, you know, but I remember, I think it was, and you could probably help me with this. I think it was either 2 or 3 when the one guy came back. It might have been 2 when the guy with the ponytail came and took in Daniel. 3. He took Daniel in under his wing, and he was just, you know, trying to really reach out to him and show him some love. You know, kind of give him what he felt like he wasn't getting from Mr. Miyagi. And he got him to be completely vulnerable. And he had horrible intentions because he was trying to get payback from the old sensei. And so the reason that I brought that up is because that's what men are afraid of, I think, sometimes. You know, there's got to be an angle. You know, you're being too nice. You know, you're coming. I don't like the way you're coming across. There's got to be an angle. What's going on here? You're trying to get in with me. You're trying to get me, take advantage of me. What's going on? And so I think that that's just one of the reasons why men don't want to be vulnerable, because they don't want to be taken advantage of. There's some kind of angle that you have. And I think that that we got to fix that. Those of us, the Bible says that you who are spiritual must bear the infirmity of the weak. You know, so those of us that are spiritual got to be genuine. We got to be real. We got to be what God says we ought to be for every man, woman, boy, and girl. And I think that the more of us that will rise up to that occasion, it only takes one light, you know, to brighten up a room, you know. And if we can get enough lights in a room, I think we can turn this thing to where we can see a lot of our young men grow up, you know, more well balanced, you know, not just these trying to be hardcore this or hardcore that. They have that, but they also have the other side to where they can empathize and they can look at you and say, hey, you know, are you okay? You know, I'm not talking about, you know, your leg or your arm. I'm talking about your heart. You know, what's going on in your mind? What are you thinking? You know, talk to me. I need you to talk to me because something's going on there. You know, you need them to talk to you because you need them to open your mouth and tell you. You need them to locate themselves. You know, because you don't want to come down the road and find that they've done something drastic to harm themselves or harm somebody else. You know, all of those cases of those guys who are with a woman and they end up unfortunately taking the life of the woman and then killing themselves, you know, because the woman didn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. You know, there was a point where somebody could have and should have empathized with them.
Yeah.
Before they got all the way over. And that's the kind of stuff that I think about. You know, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be able to think about. We got to be able to see those signs. When there's a change, a slight change, a slight shift in behavior, you know, hey, come here. What's going on? Let's go get some pizza. You know, and like you said, Jody, it doesn't even have to always be we got to have this deep conversation. You know, it can evolve into that. But right now, let's go get some pizza. Let's go bowl. Let's go bowl a couple of games at the bowling alley, you know, and talk about anything but what the problem may be. Loosen them up so that they're saying, you know what? I was thinking about something the other day. Something happened at school. Oh yeah, what happened? Now you know something happened. but you couldn't pull it out of them except you were able to show them that you care first. You know, and
Yeah.
my father used to say this, you know, in order to really address the wound, you got to pour the oil on first. If you go right in with the astringent, you know, they go, hey, what are you doing? You know, stop, you know. But if you go in with the oil first, it's soothing. And then you can address the wound, you know. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time before you can get to addressing that wound, because you got to make sure that you can make sure they understand that they can be vulnerable in your presence.
Yeah. I think, to your point, I will forever be grateful for a man named Jason Cotter. My son was really struggling with some things. And Jason Cotter noticed, and he said, hey, why don't you and I go out for a milkshake? And my son still remembers that, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing what a little bit of giving of your time and of your heart can do to open somebody up that's really wrestling. Maybe they've started to harden their heart, harden their mind towards others. Yeah. And man, if you can just crack that nut, and sometimes the cracking of that nut is as simple as a milkshake and some French fries to open that door to somebody's heart, which opens the door to healing, that allows them to look at themselves and the situation in a different light because they've been given space to share that.
Yeah.
And I think we're all looking for that, it's tough. I mean, some days it's tough being a guy, but it's also tough being a lady. And Sean talks about this all the time. I think a lot of times we view the lens of our family from our perspective. We're going off making the bacon and our wife's at home taking care of the kids. Those are different sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And to Sean's point, a lot of times we're in environments where, it's that rough and tumble. It's like two billy goats hitting each other, ramming each other. And that's how we, interact with each other as men. But when you come home, you need to shed that mask and go, all right, what does my wife need?
Yeah.
What can I do to ease her burden? What can I do where we can share the load? And every day when I come home, the first thing I do is find my wife. Even if she's at work, like she is tonight, I crack open the door and I blow her a kiss, right? So that she knows I'm here. And guys, we need to do that. We need to, shed the mask of the macho guy from work and bring the real dude at home so that you can help, set the tone in your family, set your tone for love and growth and unity in your home.
So, something fun that goes through my mind, and I used to train people this, like, the man you want to be is, like you said earlier about guys got to get that hardcore stuff going or whatever. Like, I use the word chivalry a lot when I'm training people, because it's like we want to be able to see. Like, I used to be the dude when I first got my black belt. I'm walking around. I just got my first degree. I'm at the mall. I'm like, man, I could neck chop this dude right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm walking around practicing moves in my head on people, and I'm thinking to myself after a while, like, this is ridiculous. Like, to be honest, like this is not right, And I never really, a lot of the training I had done, I didn't get a lot of coaching for it. Like, I'm learning a lot of things on my own, and I was really into doing that stuff. But I had to learn on my own that chivalry is sort of like you're a stone cold killer in the gym, but when you're around people, especially women and kids, you're sweet as pie. And to be that guy, you become, when you try to be a person of chivalry, you become a warrior. And I used to think a warrior is somebody that everybody's afraid of. And the more you read about warriors in the past, a warrior is someone that can strike fear in people, but when he's around family and children, everybody feels protected. They're not afraid of him. And I had to let that resonate for a while to figure out like who I was, because I know walking around pretending I'm gonna neck chop somebody at the mall is not cool. But I'm just saying, like, and I've seen my students act like that. That was another part of it, is like, I don't want my people acting like this. That's not good. So, but to be able to go from one to the other is a good thing. And I think that's what the warriors of the past did. Like, I have it in my garage here somewhere. I have, like, when I used to promote people to black belt, they used to have to do a black belt project. And one of my students one time, she made like this big poster. I got it here somewhere. Of all the warriors from all over the world, different time periods, different parts of the world. There was like knights on there, ninjas on there, like Mongol fighters and all this kind of stuff. There was probably like 10 different warrior classes. And the interesting thing was, all of those warrior classes have warrior codes, and all of the warrior codes were very similar. And so a lot of the codes said things like, you honor other people, you honor friends, and you always protect women and children. And I just, I thought that was kind of interesting, how it doesn't matter what time period you do, where you go, those codes are pretty much the same across the board. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. Warrior, when it's time to battle, he strikes fear in the hearts of his enemy. But when he's at home, he brings protection to the hearts and minds of those he loves. And I think that's critical, right? We need to find a way to give that emotional and spiritual strength in our homes. We need to set the tone. But we also, in order for us to do that, we have to take care of ourselves emotionally as well. And like Antoine said, mental health for men is just as important as it is for women and for our kids. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to give ourselves space to go escape, to read, to meditate, to exercise, to get things out of our chest. But we also need to have somebody that we can trust with the deepest, heaviest things of our heart. So even if they're just listening to us, and I tell you, it makes a huge difference. And if we can figure out a way, little by little, how to become emotionally strong, but emotionally vulnerable, that those that we love feel safe and they feel loved at the same time, what kind of confidence does that give you in your home? What kind of confidence does that give you in your relationships?
Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I mean, it's you and I, all three of us could keep going. Of course, we miss Mike. The guy always has a great perspective. So, Mike, much love. Guys, if you haven't connected with Antoine, please go out to Facebook. Just search Antoine Browne, especially on Mondays. He does a nice motivational minute. Usually they're about 10 minutes long, and they really cause you to look inward. And Sean, you got to go check him out. Shawnee_the_kid on TikTok. The guy is every day talking about the power of relationships and of being a good, loving husband in the home. So please go connect with these guys. So thank you guys so much. And in the words of Antoine, I love you.
I love you too, brother.
I truly, truly love you, man.
Yeah.
I thank you guys for sharing your experience and your insight, and most importantly, your hearts.
Yeah. Love you guys.
Yeah. All right, guys. You guys have a fantastic night, and we will check you same time, just probably next month, right here on FathersFyre. See ya.
Peace.